The more I think about this, the more I believe the Arizona Cardinals should trade pick number 16 for a proven, well above average cornerback. Look at how aggressive other teams have been in this division. Have the Cardinals made significant moves? Yes. Have they been aggressive? Yes. Have they been aggressive enough? Because that's a big question mark right now. And we talked about this, and Darren, we both agree. Pat P wasn't Pat P his rookie year. As unbelievably talented as the number 5 pick overall. DRC, the first round corner taken before Pat in terms of the Cardinals draft history, didn't crack the lineup until around Thanksgiving. And he was very good in December and even better in January as the Cardinals made that run. But to think that you can draft a corner, whether it's J.C. Horn or whomever, Caleb Farley, and think that guy is going to be the guy his rookie season, that's a bit of a gamble. And if you're still on Kyler Murray's rookie contract like they are, and you're all in right here, right now, the question to me becomes, Kyle, have the Cardinals been aggressive enough? And is there room to actually solve that and do basically what the Seahawks and the Niners and the Rams have done and deal that first round pick?
Seems pretty unlikely at this point. I think it's a dangerous game to trade first round picks for veteran players, especially depending on their contract situation. Like if you trade for a third-year guy on his rookie contract that's a proven star and you get 2 or 3 years of below market value for him, then I get that. But if you're talking about trading right now for a Pro Bowler who's making already market value, that's tough, because you're saying basically, I'm going to give up this first round pick and we're going to push in hard for this year. But if he's on his last year of his contract, for instance, then you got to either pay him next year or let him go. And you're looking at a 1-year rental. And I get it, because first round picks can flame out. And sometimes you will get no production at all from a first round pick. But sometimes you'll hit on a Pro Bowler, and then you have a Pro Bowler for a really cheap contract. So it's a very boomer bust proposition in the draft, but those are so valuable when you hit on them. So I would be reticent to do it. I mean, I think you still have to realize that you need young, cheap talent to build any sort of long-term foundation for a team. And knowing that, yeah, Kyler Murray is cheap right now, but he's 23 or 24 years old, and you want him to be your franchise quarterback for the next 10 years after that. And you always want to have some good players around him. And to do so, you need to have draft picks. So I think if there's a slam dunk case and there's a guy who is below market on his contract, still on his rookie deal, or he's got a favorable veteran contract for 2 years, maybe I'd consider it. But if it's an expiring deal or a guy already making market value, I think I would probably pass on that.
I think the other thing too is, and I mentioned that I got a chance to talk to Steve Keim last week, and it's funny because I felt a little seen, because I know I've used these words myself on this podcast, but at one point we were talking about the free agent signings and everything, and he's like, look, he goes, I know, and I don't think he was necessarily referring to me, because I know there's been some national talk along these lines too, but he goes, I hear all these people talking about going for it and pushing all our chips in. And he goes, I don't see it that way. I see it as our team had 5 wins and then had 8 wins and didn't make the playoffs and wasn't good enough. So I'm trying to make this team good enough. And I just thought it was interesting that he's not seeing it as a push the chips in kind of situation. And if that's true, then under this scenario where you're talking about trading because you're going for it, I don't think they look at it that way. I agree with Kyle. I think there's this sense of we've got to still have something down the road. Yeah, we're signing some guys right now that are probably going to be relatively short term. Part of the short term part of it has to do with money and, the ability to sign guys or not sign guys because of the salary cap for this year. But I do think you got to look. We all know the issues with first round picks, and maybe that's part of your argument, Paul, is that, if you struggle with some of the first round picks anyways, maybe get something that's a little bit more of a known quantity. But I ultimately agree with Kyle. I think they're in a position where, especially with the way the roster is built now, not only do you have to find somebody in the first round this year that's going to give you something, maybe not as much this year, but in 2022 and 2023 and 2024, and you really need to hit on it. And I think this pick, not only do I think they wouldn't necessarily trade it away for a veteran, but I think the pressure is pretty big that they get something really good with it. And that's more for the future than maybe necessarily 2021.
And you're right. That's exactly where I'm driving, the known versus the unknown, and just the 50% hit rate really across the NFL on a lot of first round picks, as opposed to dealing that first round pick. And for example, I called up the 8 Pro Bowl cornerbacks from this past season. Now, look, you're not getting Jalen Ramsey and you're not getting Tre'Davious White. I'm throwing those out right off the top. Xavier Howard of the Dolphins. What about Stephon Gilmore? Older, massive contract. Not sure. That's the other end of it. Not sure if that's number 16 might be paying too much for a Stephon Gilmore. But I don't know. Maybe the Ravens are in love with a guy and all of a sudden they want number 16 and they're saying, here's Marlon Humphrey. Saints have serious cap issues right now, still do. Marshawn Lattimore for your number 16 pick overall. That's mighty tempting to me, Kyle, considering at number 16, the degree of uncertainty there as to what you're getting, especially in the rookie year, is significant enough where, to me, you have to consider that A, and then B, this is the only time in the history of Kyler Murray's contract you're going to be able to consider that at this point in the offseason. That's the other end of my point.
Yeah, normally I would say slam the book shut. I'm not even having this conversation about trading a first round pick because it goes against everything philosophically I would do as a GM, being an analytics guy. But I agree with you where if there was 1 year where they did it, and it wouldn't surprise me, it would be this season, or it could also be next season as well. But I mean, we foreshadowed this going into free agency. Like the Rodney Hudson trade was not a surprise at all to us because we knew they were probably going to be aggressive, and getting J.J. Watt and Malcolm Butler and A.J. Green, like they might, I mean, Steve Keim might not be pushing all of his chips in, but he's certainly been more aggressive this offseason than he usually is. And I think that's a testament to where they are with Kyler Murray's rookie contract. So it certainly wouldn't stun me, especially if a Pro Bowl cornerback is available and you feel like that's the last missing piece for this roster, then it could happen. But I'm also looking at the NFC West, knowing that, man, there's a lot of talent in this division, and you went 8-8 last year. You weren't 10-6 or 11-5, and you didn't win a playoff game type thing. So you have to really believe in your ability to go from 8-8 to a Super Bowl contender in the best division in football in order to really go all in like that and give up the first round pick. So it would be a gamble, but if any position makes sense, I totally agree. For a Pro Bowl cornerback would be the move.